Hello, and welcome to my final lecture for the career counseling lectures on Chapter 19, Charting Your Own Path as a Professional Counselor. Okay, so at this point in the program, something just good to reflect on periodically, do you think that the counseling profession is right for you? Do you feel that this is something that you want to get into? Maybe not career counseling in particular, but is counseling something that you feel drawn to do? Do you feel drawn to help people figure out problems that they have in their lives, to guide them through theory, through different interventions to help them achieve a healthier mental health, a healthier body, a healthier life, right? It's something to reflect on. We need helpers. We need more of us, because they're what do you call it? The ratio of counselors to people in the world is definitely out of balance. So at this point in the program, another thing you can think about is if you're convinced about a specialty track, whether that's something that you want to do. Do you want to be an addictions counselor? Do you want to be a marriage and family counselor? Do you want to be a school counselor? Do you want to be a career counselor, or any of these other things? And maybe you're just in the front end of the program, getting started, not really sure, haven't had a lot of courses yet. That's okay. But these are just things to think about as you go through the counseling program, so that you can make the right choice for you. So 4 not so easy steps in terms of your career path, table 19.1 in your textbook is something you can look at as well. You want to prepare yourself, engage in a job search process, adjust to your new career, and engage in long-term career planning. So step 1, prepare yourself. So you can gather information about yourself and the world of work to be able to prepare yourself for this field. You want to look at your strengths, your weaknesses, look at your competencies, or what competencies you want to work to develop, right? Do you want to become an equine therapist, or do you want to do hypnotism or EMDR, or do you want to specialize in eating disorders, or sex addiction, or substance abuse, or these different kinds of things? And look at, what am I doing? What have I done to develop my competency in the areas that I'm drawn towards? And then in looking at the world of work, you want to look at the realities of the workplace, maybe talk to people that are in the field already, like myself or Dr. Whitaker, other counselors, professors, ask them what there is to expect in terms of employment, work, paperwork, all those kinds of things. And then also, you want to look at experiences that might make you more marketable. So volunteering for crisis response for the American Red Cross, or working as a receptionist at a psychiatric hospital, or other different kinds of things, volunteering at a church for doing this, that, or the other thing where you're helping people. These are different things that could make you more marketable and show that you have that helping heart. You can also adopt an attitude of self-responsibility. It's important. So complete your program with intentionality, complete it with the intention of, I want to be a good counselor and I want to help people. I don't want to hurt people because I decided not to pay attention in a particular class. No, this information is a launch pad into the field. And it's important to remember that there's going to be continuing education that you're required to complete once you do get your licensure. That's going to help you stay on your toes about the latest trends, the research, all these things. So yeah, be intentional. Also recognize your choices. So which degree program you complete at what university, the approach you take to each course, the types of relationships you establish with your advisor and professors. And if I haven't said it already, like myself, Dr. Whitaker, we're going to become colleagues in the field upon graduation, right? We're not just going to be the one teaching you anymore. We'll be somebody that is a fellow counselor, right? You can also look at supplemental experiences while you're completing your degree, kind of like what I was just mentioning with volunteering with the American Red Cross and things of that nature. And then you also need to recognize how you choose to address your own personal needs for counseling. I strongly recommend, if you've never done counseling before and you're becoming a counselor, it's important to go to counseling for a handful of sessions, just so you can be on the other side of it and know what it's like. My counseling program required for us to do 12 sessions before we could start seeing clients. I don't know whether the U of H program requires that or can or any of that, but it's just a good experience to understand what it's like for someone to go speak to a stranger about their innermost stuff potentially. And then you also want to remember that counseling isn't just a one-time deal. It might be something that maybe for a couple of years you're good, but then you need to go back after you've already completed. Or maybe somebody needs that once a month check-in, or, it's different for each person. So just want to pay attention to that needs for counseling to avoid burnout and transference issues. You can also take action to prepare yourself, and you can complete a self-assessment in table 19.3 of the textbook. Self-care is important. Self-care is not just bubble baths with candles and Epsom salt. Self-care is taking care of your entire self. So there's a difference between like little s self-care and big S self-care. So I think little s self-care is like the physical, take your bath, clip your nails, wash your hair, that kind of stuff. And then the big S self-care is more spiritual, identity related stuff. Do you enjoy reading? Do you enjoy rock climbing or hiking in nature, or walking around barefoot in the grass to do some earth grounding, right? Things like that. So looking at self-care and then being intentional with the selection of courses and with instructors that you pick. You can also make sure that you pace yourself, try to excel in your coursework and go above and beyond. In terms of pacing yourself, it's not a hot dog eating contest. We're not trying to spit counselors out as fast as possible. Honestly, to do a counseling degree in 2 years, it's honestly relatively short compared to the span of time that people can be counselors. So for decades to come. So you want to make sure you take your time, get to know this stuff. You're building a foundation to be a counselor later, and you want to hopefully be a successful one. Grades are just one part of coursework, but having the knowledge, skills, attitudes that you absorb or develop are another important part. And then with going above and beyond, again, you talk about, or you can do supplemental experiences to increase your marketability. And then also for step 1, preparing yourself, you can obtain licensure and other credentials. There are risks that may delay application. You want to understand application procedures. What's the timeline? When I first graduated, I think they had like a 6 to 8 month waiting period because it was just so backed up and they were really short staffed. But that was when DSHS was in charge of the board, and now BHEC is in charge, and they, I think, have like a 2-week turnaround. So it's pretty quick, pretty good. But just understanding that and taking the NCE exam if you're going to be an LPC, or the MFT exam, or the LCDC exam, whatever exams you're wanting to take, just understanding what that's all about and the requirements for malpractice insurance wherever you may work, or even if your job doesn't require malpractice insurance, it's really important to have in the event that something happens, because the insurance for psychiatric hospital, for example, is for the psychiatric hospital. It doesn't cover you, the employee. So malpractice insurance, very important. You also want to know about legal obligations associated with licensure. So read the law and administrative rules. So like chapter 611, for example, and you want to adhere to all requirements for all credentials that are held. So maintaining continuing education and being in good standing and those different things. So step 2, engaging in the job search process. So you want to define what are the parameters of your search. Look at factors related to the breadth. So what's your target? What's your reach? What's safety look like? Do you want to work in a jail, a prison? Do you want to work in a substance abuse treatment facility? Do you want to work in private practice or a psychiatric hospital? Do you want to work in a residential facility? Do you want to work at a local community health authority? Do you want to work at a hospital in the psychiatric area? What do you want to do? Do you want to be in private practice? Do you want to be an assessor? Do you want to do intake and assessment at a hospital or somewhere else, right? You want to consider factors related to the type of counseling position. So that's, again, kind of going to the competency piece. What do you know, or what can you work on knowing if you want to work a certain place in particular? So maybe if you want to work at the probation department, do criminal justice type trainings, do forensic type trainings to be able to have better foundation to work from with that population. Maybe you're going to consider the location. Is it close or far from home, right? And then financial considerations, what's the pay? I've seen counseling positions that paid $28,000 a year, full-time with master's degree. I've seen counseling positions that pay $50,000 a year starting, and I've seen other ones that pay $70,000 starting. $75 starting. And then I've heard of some private practice persons earning 6 figures doing counseling because of their specialty, or maybe they do testing or other different things. Maybe they offer trainings or supervisions if they're an LPC-S or whatever, which is an LPC supervisor. Yeah, so you thinking about your job search and what you're going to do for work, you want to consider these financial things potentially for yourself. And it's not all about the money, but we need to make money in order to live. And so it's not that you're trying to like rip people off. It's that you're trying to make a living, and this is our way of doing it, right? It's helping. And then also you want to identify distinguishing elements. So consider how you might differ from other persons that are looking for counseling positions. And you want to highlight your counseling specific traits. So what are your interests, values, skills? What are your educational achievements, professional experiences, or accomplishments, right? This is where you can use a resume or a curriculum vitae, depending on what you've done, to really demonstrate your ability to be an asset to a team, right? You also want to develop and compile application materials. So have resumes, cover letters, list of references, recommendation letter, transcripts, credentials. Depending where you work, it could, the references requested could be different. So like for my master's program, I went to Houston Graduate School of Theology, which is a seminary, and they required a letter from a pastor recommending me to go there. And so if you're wanting to work at like maybe a Catholic school, they might require a letter from a priest as a letter of reference. I have no idea if they would actually do that, but I'm just saying like that could be something that they would ask for, to like, they want someone that's of the Catholic faith to be able to work there. So just things to think about with that. And then transcripts, credentials, those can be things that you can provide as well. I have a zipper binder in the other room where I keep a recently typed up, recently made curriculum vitae in the front, that if I need to provide a copy or show them a copy, if I'm on an interview, here it is, and you can make a copy of it if you'd like, or you can just have it. And then I keep my transcripts from all the institutions that I went to. I keep my malpractice insurance in there, my licensure information in there, and I actually have all my continuing education in there as well. But I might actually end up putting that in a different binder because you're getting a little thick in the last 6 years. So transcripts, credentials, yeah, that stuff's important. And I use page protectors for all those documents I was just mentioning. So they're just in there. They're not hole punched. Don't worry about ripping or anything. It just keeps the papers crisp, clean, and protected from potential water damage. Not all of it, but just potential. So you can think about that. How organized do you look when you come in? And having like a portfolio, if you will, which is kind of like what mine is a way to present yourself professionally. So looking at resume content areas for counselors, you want to, the minimum recommended is your name, contact information, credentials, education, and employment history, but you can also add counseling experience, committee memberships, all these other different things that you've done that lend to understanding who you are as a counselor, right? So if you feel like it's relevant, do it. For mine, I've got education, licensures and certifications, and then teaching experience, and then counseling, clinical experience, and then clinically related experience or practicum experiences. And then I also have related work experiences. So jobs that aren't counseling, but lend to my ability to be a good counselor. So like being an executive assistant. When I was a waitress, I consider that people building skills. So I have waitressing on there. And then being a volleyball coach for children, got that on there too. So it's just showing my well-roundedness. I've never seen a resume with quotations on it, but it's something to consider. Maybe look it up and see if that fits for you. Oh, and then other things, I've got honors, awards, scholarships, conferences I've been to, conferences I've helped with, and then leadership experiences I've had within my PhD program and other organizations like TCA and whatnot. So those are just things to think about. And they're just showing your level of involvement in the field. Also, you want to launch your job search, and you can do it in an organized way. Treat your job search as a job itself. As I told one of my clients, I'll say it to y'all too. You're unemployed right now, so your job is to find a job. And so maybe take that 8 to 5 that usually you'd be working and search for jobs that entire time. And you can keep an Excel spreadsheet on the side or a Word document on the side of all the places that you applied to, what date you applied. And so you can keep track of all the places that you tried to work. Do be mindful of how many you apply for, because they all might call back at the same time, and then you're going to have a hard time deciding which one you want to work at. But I think having options is a great thing. At one point, I was considering 3 different jobs, and I was able to kind of use that to negotiate for a higher income at the one of them, because, well, this other place is offering me this. Can you guys match that? And so, power negotiation, something to have in your skill set as well. But you search for job openings, advertise, hidden job market, job searching, friendships, use networking, asking around, does anybody know of any counseling positions? I strongly recommend getting a LinkedIn and putting it on there that you're a counseling professional and whatever licensure you have. I have been approached for, I don't even know how many jobs at this point, like over 24 at least, that they, I saw your profile, I saw you're a counselor, we're wondering if you wanted to have a job here, or we have an opening, would you like to apply? So just even having it, people can reach out and ask. Like I said at the beginning of this, we are needed. So having a profile out there like that, it kind of helps jobs come to you, because people will search for an LPC, search for an LPC, and LMFT, LCDC. And if they find you, they might send you a message. Okay. And then of course, apply for the positions and then do the interview and follow up. And one of the things I would recommend is maybe having a list of questions that you want to ask the interviewer about things that are important to you in a job. So what's healthcare like? What's the environment like? What are the requirements going to be? What's paperwork going to look like? What is your policy for days off or paid vacation? What is your policy? Like, really, how much autonomy do I have versus not have? What's the frequency of meetings that we're going to have? All these different kinds of things. What are the processes? Ask them how they handle conflict among employees, to be able to understand how it's going to be for you to be an employee there. Okay. And then also with launching your job search, again, organizational management, psychological management as well, engaging in big S, little s self-care, and maybe get somebody to be a support person for you that isn't financially affected by your job search. So maybe don't pick your spouse, because they might get frustrated that you still can't find a job, right? So maybe pick a friend or a family member, someone that can be supportive of, like, it's okay, you're going to find something eventually. Like, you're not going to get the first job you apply for. Like, there's been several jobs that I didn't get picked because I just didn't have enough experience yet. And it doesn't mean I'm never going to find a job. It's just that I need to gain more experience to get some jobs, and that's okay, right? Because maybe the population that you would have to work with in that environment would be really severe, or would have a lot of problems that you would be running into, that if you're really green to the field, maybe you wouldn't know what you're doing yet. So they want somebody with 5-7 years experience. That's a really common thing to see. They want 5 or 7 years from somebody. And then respond to offers of employment. So ask for details about offers, preferably in writing, and buy time to consider the offer, and you can negotiate sensitively. One thing that I have done, and I'm looking it up on my phone right now, is in several LinkedIn messages that I've received asking me to work, I tell them I appreciate that you reached out to me, but I can't, in some different words. So, like, for example, I got asked if I wanted to work for a particular company, and I said no, because I'm a PhD student, I'm working full-time already. And I said, good evening, I am so flattered to have been contacted by you about this opportunity, but at present my plate is full with a full-time job, PhD student coursework, and an associated internship this spring. Thank you for the opportunity, but unfortunately I'm not able to act on it at this time. I wish you the best of luck in building your team, and perhaps we can work together in the future. I will be sure to reflect upon whether there is anyone I can refer to you for the position. Thank you again. Blessings and positivity, Audrey Zatopek. Right. So, you respond in a way where you keep the door open. You don't totally complete it. No, I'm good, thanks. Because you never know. Maybe down the line you will want a job with that entity. So, something to think about. And then 3, adjust to your new career. So this is once you've gotten hired, conduct and view yourself as a professional counselor, and be aware of fluctuating self-efficacy. So your belief that you're able to be successful and be a effective counselor, it's going to go up and down with different client issues that you run into. You're going to hear things you've never heard before. You're going to encounter problems you've never encountered before. Like, you might run into pica, which maybe you have no idea what that is, but that's where people eat things that are non-nutritious items. They're not food. So they might eat plastic, they might eat hair, they might eat grass or other different things. Maybe you've never even heard of that before. So your efficacy, your sense of self-efficacy is going to fluctuate based on the confidence that you gain, the trainings that you do, the place that you work, educational opportunities, and being involved in your growth process. You're also going to have to acclimate to your new workplace, balance your confidence and learning needs, obtain and read an office manual, and take time to learn what you need to. And kind of like I already said several times, keep learning. It's an ever growing field. And then step 4 is engaging in long-term career planning. Think about a 5-year resume. You know, what do you want to accomplish, or what do you want to be doing in 5 years? What do you want your resume to look like? Otherwise known as an aspirational resume. And so then that can maybe help you refine your job search and look for jobs that fit that 5-year resume that you're wanting to build. And so Laker and Laker have this 5-year resume project where they've got these 6 steps that you can do. So if you wanted to, you can pause this video and do this exercise, or you don't have to pause it. You can just do it later. But it's something where you can get practice doing it yourself. That way, when you maybe do it with a client, I've done it before myself and I found it really useful because or challenging in this way because or maybe you'll try it and you won't like it. But this is something that you can do for your own career planning as well as with clients for their career planning. And then kind of like what the last slide was talking about, you know, where do you want to be in 5 years? What kind of experiences do you need to achieve your 5-year goal? Do you need to have certain education, do certain experiences, work in certain places? Are there other changes or decisions that you need to make, right? So like before doing counselor education PhD myself, I worked in the field in a variety of contexts. So jail, probation, private practice, residential substance abuse facility, psychiatric hospital, inpatient and outpatient, because I wanted to get a well-rounded experience and kind of work in most every venue before I went into teaching others how to be counselors. I wanted that experience myself. And so maybe think about that for your own self. Where are you trying to go and what do you need to do to help yourself get there? And again, it's kind of what we were saying. What short-term actions can you take? And is there any information or support that you need? And never be afraid to ask for help. Some final messages. Duggar says there's honor in all work. And Abraham Lincoln said, whatever you are, be a good one. And I love that. And lastly, this is the very last slide, this little quote from Dr. Duggar, who wrote the text. And she says, as this chapter concludes, I'd like to congratulate you on finishing this text in the course for which it was assigned. Returning to the cruise ship metaphor with which we began, I hope you've learned a lot, enjoyed the cruise, and even better, developed a passion for career counseling. As your future journeys take you to professional conferences, I hope our paths will cross and that we'll have the opportunity to meet in person. Best wishes for a most fulfilling career as a professional counselor. And I too have best wishes for you to become a professional counselor. I hope that these lectures, despite the up and down nature of them, were helpful to you. Again, if you didn't see my chapter 13 lecture, I mentioned that the reason that the uploading of the videos got affected was my computer crashed and I lost everything. I had to buy a new one and start over. So that's why things were a little bit late. And I'm so sorry for that again. Please forgive me. But I have really enjoyed going back through this career counseling material. I hope it's been helpful to you and that some of the examples have been useful for you to better apply the concepts. Of course, if you have any questions, please do feel free to comment them in the chat below or in the comment section below. And I wish you the best of luck on your endeavors in your counseling career. And maybe I'll run into you at a conference like Dr. Duggar said. Have a great rest of your semester and adios.